Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 in Bermuda, and in Mexico City it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. Yesterday I attended Bill Riker's funeral over at St. George's by the River in Rumson, New Jersey. Here's the program that was handed out. You see they have a very nice picture of Bill in the front. There were 1,000 people at the church. There were no seats left. There was standing room only capacity. There were people in the aisles. It was a very moving experience. And he's somebody who's going to be obviously greatly missed by many people from many diverse sectors. There were people from the reinsurance industry. There were people from his sailing days. There were people from the Lawrenceville School. There were people from Rumson. There were people from various other projects that he's been involved with, and his family was there. So our condolences once again remain with them, and we do too celebrate the life of Bill Riker. I was privileged to have known him even a little bit. We'll go to our main news. Well, the main news is coming from Insurance Day today. They're having their annual confab this week in London, and they're obviously running news releases that come out of the confab. And today it was Robert Hiscox's turn to make some news. He got up and he made a speech, and he's saying that carriers should pay $5 million for the privilege of a seat in the Lloyd's market. He reiterated his call for Lloyd's to charge higher entrance fees to prospective members, as well as calling for stricter regulation of regional offices. Mr. Hiscox said, quote, "I hear a lot of people say how great it is that Lloyd's is popular, that companies want to come here. We have a franchise here that's very priceless, one that survived times of agony, but now we allow new entrants to come in and compete with us. These new entrants," he went on to say, "tell Tom Bolt that they're not bringing something new to the table, but then they go and let Chubb in, a company that's tried to buy us, Hiscox, twice. What are they going to do? Probably try and take all of our clients, that's what." Hiscox wants Lloyd's to charge a higher fee to companies wanting to access to the market. Mr. Hiscox continued saying, "I've said all along that it should be $5 million US a seat at Lloyd's. Some new entrants are now being quoted £25,000, he said. I'm not against new carriers if they bring something good in, but they should pay for that privilege." He also called for greater regulation of the powers of regional offices. And this is very interesting. He said it's absolutely necessary to keep the licenses. They're one of Lloyd's major selling points. And I'm not against representative offices around the world trying to get business back here. What I am concerned about is when I hear that people can write business from the likes of places like Dubai into Lloyd's. I want to see the person who lost me money on the underwriting floor of Lloyd's. He went on to finalize it by saying, "As a mutual, I can be brought down by other people's bad underwriting at Lloyd's. I want stricter regulation. These offices should not be underwriting offices, just representative entities that find the business which wouldn't normally get to Lloyd's." Very interesting from Mr. Hiscox's perspective. It's something that I'm sure the people at the New York Insurance Department who are considering the relaunch of the New York Insurance Exchange are looking at very closely. Robert Hiscox is a man who, when he speaks, you have to listen to him. There was a big art heist in Paris overnight. A lone thief stole 5 paintings, maybe worth hundreds of millions of euros, from a Paris modern art museum. The paintings are major works, including Picasso and Matisse. Here's the Olive Tree by Breck. This was also stolen. They were lifted from the Paris Museum of Modern Art, which is across the Seine from the Eiffel Tower. The museum's security system was disabled. Surveillance caught a single masked intruder on the tape. 3 guards, of course, were on duty overnight, but they saw nothing. The intruder entered by cutting a padlock on a gate and broke through a museum window. The prosecutor's office initially estimated that the 5 paintings' total worth could be as much as $613 million US. So the paintings stolen were a cubist oil painting called The Pigeon with the Peas by Picasso. That was estimated at about 23 million euros. one by Pastoral called La Pastorale, the one by Matisse called La Pastorale, that was valued at about 15 million euros. Other ones by George Brock, as we mentioned, and the total could be well over $500 million American. The Insurance Insider came out with a bulletin just before we came on saying that the fine art insurance market has been spared a potential euro 500 million mega loss after the audacious theft of 5 masterpieces from the Museum of Modern Art in Paris last night. Now, I suspect, and we don't know because we don't have the full story, because we did have a heist in Paris about 2 years ago. I remember that there is a French national fund that steps in for state-owned artwork stolen from state-owned museums that covers the losses. That may very well be the case here. We will try to find out and get to it tomorrow. Some bad economic news in the U.S. The number of people applying for unemployment benefits shot up 25,000 in the past week, all the way up to 471,000. The 4-week average gauge, which is the better judge of the volatile weekly number, is now up to about 453,000. The Labor Department had said, actually analysts had hoped that it would go down to as low as 440,000. The Labor Department officials said that there were no unusual factors around to explain the increase. The stock market could care less. It's down 210 points. Yesterday in the Senate, there was a setback for the Obama administration. Democrats failed to get enough votes to end debate on the overhaul of the financial regulation bill. However, according to many sources, the legislation is still expected to pass. The Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid has another vote scheduled today for 2:30 p.m. The loss was a bit of a surprise to Democrats because the measure enjoys wide public support. Proposed plans to create U.S. Treasury Department office to negotiate international regulations has also drawn praise from reinsurers. In the 1,408-page law proposed law is a measure drawing praise from people including Swiss Re and Lloyd's. The provision would help the companies preempt state rules that govern reinsurers by creating a U.S. Treasury Department office to negotiate international regulations. Of course, non-U.S. reinsurers without state licenses are currently disadvantaged in the U.S. because they're required to post higher collateral than their domestic competitors. It's also something that I'm sure the New York Insurance Department is looking at. The European Union has expressed strong opposition to anti-competitive, as they term it, U.S. tax proposals, which they say could result in the withdrawal of non-U.S. operators from the American market. Those proposals form part of President Obama's 2011 budget, and they deny certain tax deductions on reinsurance ceded to foreign-owned reinsurers. This is, of course, the discussion we've had with Bradley Kading down at the ABIR a number of times. We'll go to a word now from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.